If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
Today's chat's been sponsored by Online Horse College. Online Horse College has a pathway of courses from foundation level through to becoming a professional groom, stable manager, instructor or equine business owner, and many specialties in between in your area of horse interest. If you'd like to know more about horses and need a government accredited qualification that's internationally recognised, then please go to onlinehorsecollege.com. Today's guest is Jane Faulkner. Jane has an equine assisted therapy business. We're going to talk a little bit about what an equine assisted therapy business is and how that differentiates itself from other equine assisted learning. How are you today, Jane?
I'm really well. How are you?
Oh, well, good to talk to you, Jane.
You too. Thanks for having me.
That's okay. Really interested in bringing in your expertise here. Now, Jane, before we start, your favourite quote, what is it?
When you need something to believe in, start with yourself.
Yes, I think that's good. Do you say that often? Because, you're working with a particular group of vulnerable people. Do you say that often to them? Do they need?
I think we all need regular reminders of that. I think our society, we're kind of trained to look outside of ourselves rather than look inside. I think we live a bit from the outside in rather than the inside out, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jane, tell us a little bit about equine assisted therapy, because everyone wants to do horse stuff and everyone wants to help, and there's a lot of benefits from working with horses, doing activities with horses, just being in their presence. There's a lot of healing in it. It's a bit like, you're saying today's society, we probably don't have as much as ever, to do with nature, to do with animals, to do with healing, and horses have got something special. So equine assisted therapy, just tell us a little bit more about the specialty area that equine assisted therapy is.
Yeah, sure. So equine assisted therapy or equine assisted mental health is where, as an already qualified mental health professional, you're working alongside a horse or a herd of horses to support someone on their mental health journey. And what makes it different is that then I guess room-based therapy for people is exactly what you're saying, that they're outside, they're in nature. Because of that, it's a lot more relaxed. People tend to kind of drop down their walls and their guards a lot quicker. And they get that opportunity to kind of build relationship and work on connection and share their story with a horse, which I find is really powerful, because a lot of people find telling me what's really happening on a deep level straight away quite confronting.
Yes.
So yet they'll be able to kind of talk to the horse about it. Mm-hmm. I find especially with teenagers and kids that they're able to kind of tell the horse their big problems. And it's funny, once you've got them to start communicating with the horse, then they're often keen to communicate with me, which then I can help them with whatever's happening in their life. Yeah. So it's a really amazing form of therapy. What we tend to do is I've got a little herd of 3 horses. So we go in and we meet the horses. And a huge part of equine assisted therapy is really teaching whichever client I have about respecting the horse and seeing the horse as an equal individual and being open to what the horse is communicating back to that person. So in order to do that, the client's often got to learn to slow down and breathe and be curious about what the horse is doing, really watch its body language, and also to be curious about what they're feeling, the horse, but also themselves, what the client's feeling. And a lot of us have kind of lost that capacity to be in touch with what we're feeling and then work to get what that feeling needs.
Yep. All right. Now, a lot of therapists call in horse people So you've
Yes.
got a unique advantage because you're a horse person anyway.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the type of person who would be called in to assist therapists and what sort of role they would have if they were assisting a therapy with their client.
Okay. So their role would be to really keep an eye on the horses and I actually don't recommend it because I think for me, when you're the mental health therapist in there,
yes,
and you're right up beside the horse and the client, and sometimes that horse professional might be 5-10 meters away, and if the mental health professional cannot read those signals, so I really think anyone doing this work needs to be dually trained in the mental health and reading that. If it was a horse professional, they're generally keeping an eye on safety and they're reading the horse's body language so they can kind of come in and say, hey, he's not comfortable, or step back, or it's all about maintaining safety if that's their role.
Okay. So having that dual qualification is ideal. And a lot of people that come on Horse Chats have a dual qualification. The horse industry is expanding so much that people that have had a normal job come in and say, I want to bring this normal job in there, or people that are already doing horses would like to expand a bit. And everyone has this sort of unique niche within the horse world. But you've gone a little bit further than being a therapist and having your own horses and being able to also teach people this, and we can talk about that a little bit later, about if people are interested to get those dual qualifications, which really are the best way. We're going to be talking about Jane and what she's doing as well. But even before that, Jane, I'd like you to talk about how you started with this combination. Were you already a therapist that then had horses, or you already had horses and then went to uni and became a therapist?
No, I loved horses as a kid and grew up around them. And then, my career went into all kinds like nursing and then yoga. And then I did my training I did my master's in psychotherapy. And I was doing a certificate in art therapy when I actually had an equine assisted therapy session myself, and I was just blown away by it. So I had my mental health qualification first, and then I was really hungry to be able, because it's just such powerful therapy. I'd done all this other work, but it was the equine therapy that really got straight to my core issues, and I was amazed. That was the start of my journey.
Yeah. So if we've got someone then that already has horse skills, now, we talked a little bit about the people who have horse skills. It's not just they're having the horse skills, it's making sure that they're the right skills to work safely around people. So someone might be breaking and training or doing endurance riding or doing a lot of other stuff. They're not necessarily the right skills to work with people around horses.
Yeah, and it's I find with a lot of horse professionals that come and are interested about the training or come as clients, I find that they're often amazed at the different relationship you can have with a horse. So I think when you're working with horses in a capacity, say like racing or high-level dressage or anything like that, where your horse is kind of put in a yard and then you bring the horse out to work the horse and then the horse is put back, you kind of have that working relationship with the horse.
Yes.
And so we're kind of trained to see the horse in this one way, which isn't good or bad, it's just how it is. And then in equine therapy, we're interested in the horse as an equal being, in what is he telling me, and it's not about the horse having all the power, and the horse isn't an oracle. We're not seeing it like that, but we are really interested in the relationship and in what that horse is telling me about me in the relationship, and we want the relationship to be where the horse is totally free in it, so we're not using the horse as a tool. And so for a lot of horse people, it's relearning, I guess. And also to really notice all the nuances of a horse's expression and, when it's relaxed, when it's not relaxed, when it's, what it's actually kind of saying just with its mouth, with its eyes, with its ears. So it's really tuning into those subtle cues. And we do a lot of groundwork and a lot of natural horsemanship with our students just to get them ready because you do need to have that relationship where you can ask a horse to move back out of the space if you need to maintain safety with that client.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking, the subtle cues, the facial expressions. It would be interesting to someone who, who's in therapy, who pulls a few faces maybe or would like to pull faces, to say that these horses are actually pulling faces at them or, doing things, have different facial expressions.
It's amazing how the horses will play out what that person's internal experience is.
Mm-hmm.
I remember once I had a client that came into the paddock and the horses had been really calm and then they just started biting each other and really acting up. And I was like, what's going on? And I just said to her, what's happening in your life right now? And she just said, I'm so irritated. I just want to bite people. And I was like, oh my God. So they often will play out what's happening for a client.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yes. So the type of person that would come into this training, thinking, of horse people and horse backgrounds, they'd really have to be open to learning these subtle cues and going into a different field. They might come from, as you say, a competitive field or a racing field or a different other field. They've got to be a fairly open-minded person to come into this field, wouldn't they?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Open-minded, but also because sometimes when I describe it, I worry that it sounds a bit woo-woo, but underneath everything we do, there is solid foundations in theory and science.
Yes, okay.
So it's someone that is also open to doing the hard yards to do it really well.
Okay.
There's no,
Yep.
So to learning why we're doing it.
Because, the fact that this study involved, it's not just all practical. There are things that you need to know. It's not just, and I know that a lot of horse people are the same. They think that because they finished at school, that they haven't got an academic background. But I think when you first leave school, I know that when I was in year 10, so that's my 10th year at school, I just wanted to do horse stuff and I didn't do particularly well at school. So I actually went back and repeated year 10. This is year 10. This is nowhere near even finishing high school. This is like the third year below finishing high school. I repeated it and failed it again, So I just went off my merry way and just did horse stuff. But years later when I went, and since then I've done a degree and 2 masters. But, when I went back into doing a degree, I went, oh, wow, I really, I really can do this academic stuff. But there was no interest for me then,
I think that's the key. I think a lot of us are similar when you can't relate the learning to something. It's really hard to, to apply it or to put the time it needs into it.
Yes.
And I think that's really important, that the learning is applicable to what you're doing and you can kind of make meaning, and it actually makes what you're doing make more sense because you understand it.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm thinking about doing a PhD now. So, I've dropped out of school and repeated year 10 twice before I dropped out of school and, failed it twice. So I think for people who think that they're not up to the academic bit, but this is something they'd really like to do, I would encourage them to at least look into it a little bit more, at least think about it. Yeah.
Definitely, because like a few of my students that have graduated now were really concerned about that, finished in grade 10, had worked through their whole life, had learning issues.
Yes.
And there's so many ways to support yourself and to be supported now as well. So,
yeah. All right. So just generally then, with people around their horses, people who may even come to you for equine assisted learning, but they've got horses. What would you say? Is it just about breathing first? Is that the main tip you would give them to start with, or what would you give them as far as a tip with improving their communication? When they first go in and first start, maybe they haven't got any experience with horses.
Yeah.
What's the first thing? Is it just be quiet, breathe?
I think that is a massive one, just to breathe and slow down.
I say it so simply, like, just be quiet and breathe, but it really is big, isn't it?
It's huge. Yeah. It's massive, and we so rarely do it. We just run from one thing to the next, and we never stop to check in with actually how we are.
Yep.
And then we kind of bombard our horses with whatever our internal experience is. And if we haven't stopped to breathe and check in and know what's happening for us, we don't really own the inner experience. And then the horse ends up kind of copying it, if that makes sense. So I think one of the best things you can do is, before you even open the gate to enter the paddock or the arena or wherever your horse is just to I get people to take 5 deep, slow breaths. And then I get them to just feel their feet on the ground and then scan through their body and notice where they're feeling any tension, or just notice inside how they are. And just all they need to do is acknowledge, wow, I'm really, my stomach's churning, or I've got a headache. That's all it's. And that, even scientifically, does amazing things in our brain. It takes us from the back part of our brain, which is the really old reactive part of our brain, to the front part of our brain, which is the part that can actually respond to a situation and make choices for everybody.
Yep.
So just by breathing and checking in and then just acknowledging what's happening, I think that already really helps you and your horse so much. Yeah.
Okay. Jane, have you got, I'm thinking about a proud moment, a case study, something that you'd like to tell us. You don't have to say their real names, but just someone who you think that the whole equine assisted learning has made a difference for.
Yeah. Yeah. I have, I think, there's so many different stories. I guess for me, I had a young man, not long ago, who had a lot of, ADHD, and they call it oppositional defiance disorder, was really struggling at school, was getting suspended all the time. His parents were kind of tearing their hair out. He was 11, and when he first came in, he wouldn't look at me, and which is normal. I think he had Asperger's as well.
Okay.
So he wouldn't look at me and just through working with the horses, and I would see him once a week, and he would come, and we would mostly just do horse stuff. So learning how to halter the horse and groom the horse and feed the horse, and then groundwork with the horse, and for him to learn how to breathe and learn how to tell the horse how he's feeling, and learning how to, I guess, set boundaries with the horse.
Yep.
And just the feedback from but just how he changed. So he would.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because at the beginning he wouldn't talk to me at all. He wouldn't look at me, and then probably by the fourth week, he was talking to me. He was really open, and great feedback from his school and feedback from his family. And so I've got quite a few stories like that. Even kids that have had suicidal ideation.
Oh wow.
Coming. Yeah, kids. Young kids, 11-year-olds with suicidal ideation, and coming and working with the horses and just sharing with the horses, how they feel that there's no point and there's no hope, and they're no good at anything, and just watching their confidence build because the horses are so beautiful at just giving that. They're so non-judgmental in how they give love, and how they're like, mate, you're enough for me, and just so lots of kids that's really helped, I guess, turn their lives around and given them confidence and self-esteem. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, tell us a little bit then about the sort of work you do with them when they're grooming. Is it just normal, this is how you catch a horse, this is how you do this, or are you doing a little bit more as you're doing that work? Are you saying watch the body expression of the horse? What's the horse telling you now? What sort of feedback are you doing there? Yep.
Yeah, so that's where I'm applying therapy to everything I'm asking them to do. So even in how they approach the horse, because the horse, I'm watching how the horse responds.
Yep.
And then I'm checking in with the person, are you breathing? What's happening inside? Where are you tight? Can you tell the horse what you're scared of? Can you tell the horse what you're worried might happen? So in everything, I'm kind of applying therapy and helping the client become more aware of what they do and what their old behaviour patterns are. And then what's awesome about the horses is they give the person an opportunity to try something different, which helps change behaviour.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com. All right, Jane, thinking about, the next 12 months, 2 years, what are your plans? Are you doing something different, more of the same?
I guess plans are, because I have students that have graduated now and we all want to work together to help people, and there's such a need for more mental health services on the Gold Coast.
Yep.
So we're wanting to expand into a centre where we can offer therapy to all different parts of the community. So that's really exciting, and where we can offer individual therapy and group therapy, and we've got lots of big plans, Glenn.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
Right. So Gold Coast at the moment, but certainly I think if you had students in other areas that came to the Gold Coast, that studied with you, and there was a few in one area, you'd be supporting them as they set up a centre and
definitely
went from there, because you can see there's such a need.
There's such a need, especially with teens and kids, and they respond so beautifully with the horses. And I think just being outside.
Yep. All right. And then if you're going to sum up your philosophy into a sentence or two, about the whole thinking equine assisted therapy, if you're going to describe it or just talk about it, what would you say?
Oh,
big subject, yes.
It is. I guess I would say that it's a beautiful therapy to help people heal and to help people become more aware of themselves and the other.
Yep.
And that it reteaches us how to be kind to ourselves, kind to others, and to like who we are. And to me, if people can just like who they are, I think the whole world would be a better place, where we're just kind to ourselves, because that kind of spreads out. It's, that saying, hurt people.
Yes.
So it's often when we don't like ourselves that we'll act out and we'll hurt others. So I guess for me, horses really teach that, to be kind to yourself and to like who you are and to stand in your power.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what they encourage people to do.
Yes. All right. Now, Jane, if people would like to contact you both about equine facilitated or equine assisted therapy and about your course in equine assisted therapy as well, because I think you're sort of doing a bit of both, and it's good to have a practitioner that's teaching, but it's good to have a teacher that's still practicing, because I think that's important, keeps you grounded.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So they can I've got a website, and it's www.equineassistedtherapyaustralia.com.au.
All right. And the other thing is too that your details will be on horsechats.com/Jane Faulkner, or just go to horsechats.com and search for Jane or search for Faulkner, and you'll find her page, and all those contact details will be at the bottom as well. Thank you, Jane.
Thanks so much.
Lovely to catch up with you, but lovely to talk to you and find out a bit more about what you're doing. And I'd love to have you back again sometime soon. We'll go into a bit more depth in some of the areas that you're specialising in. Would be great.
Yep, sounds great. Thank you, Glenys.
Okay, thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.